Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives and back with our weekly news roundup and a look at some of the more interesting stories in the auto industry. BYD has been on a roll lately. They have shown some pretty impressive EV sales numbers. They have rolled out some new plug-in hybrids. They have expanded upmarket with some new brands, and they have been increasing their exports and building their presence in Europe. And now they are raising the bar again in EV technology with the new Super E platform. Now, there are several interesting elements that make this a pretty impressive set of hardware. The first is their new high-performance motor. This will spin it up to 30,511 RPM. By way of benchmarking, Xiaomi, the startup last year that kind of took the EV world by storm, their top motor spins at 27,200 RPM, and the Tesla Model S Plaid, that motor spins at only 20,000 RPM. So that's a good start. This motor features BYD's self-developed 1500-volt silicon carbide power module and direct cooling refrigerant technology. Keeping things that go fast cool is very important to prevent them from breaking down. Underpinning the Super E platform is a new 1,000-volt electrical architecture. Now, most EVs in the market now have a 400-volt setup. On the higher end of the market, you might find an 800-volt architecture, which will help you charge a little faster. And now, once again, we're getting up to 1,000 volts. And from a consumer benefit standpoint, the big thing here is charge speed. And in this case, the charge speed is going to be up to 1 megawatt or 1,000 kilowatts. By comparison, most 800-volt vehicles will top out at about 350 kilowatts. So we're talking about a charge speed almost 3 times as fast as what's currently out there. And at the end of the day, that means you'll get about 185 miles on the EPA cycle into your vehicle in about 5 minutes. So yes, it is now just about as fast to recharge an electric vehicle as it is to fill up an internal combustion vehicle with gasoline or diesel. Now, obviously, to do that, you need an infrastructure. There are not a lot of chargers out there that will charge a vehicle at 1 megawatt, but we are pretty confident that BYD is helping build out that infrastructure as well. This will underpin 2 vehicles initially. Surprisingly, not the high-end Yonglong or the mid-range Denza, but the entry-level BYD brand. The Han L sedan on the left is a midsize model that starts at $37,000. The Tong L is a 3-row SUV on the right that starts around $39,000. Both those vehicles have 670 horsepower on the base models. And if you want to upgrade to the all-wheel drive, that'll take you to 1,086 horsepower. So a non-trivial amount of power. The Han will go about 435 miles on the Chinese cycle, or 325 miles on the EPA cycle. The Tong a little less because it's a little heavier and a little less aerodynamic. But overall, we do expect a lot of this technology to be propagated throughout the BYD portfolio and take a competitive range of products and make them even better. So keep your eyes posted for more news from BYD. Renault's 5 Electric is already in market. It got the European Car of the Year. It has been selling pretty well. It was the number 1 selling EV in France recently, and it's doing quite well in Europe as well, leveraging the history of the original Renault 5, which they built about 5 million of those. But Renault, who had a really good year last year, said, why leave well enough alone? Let's resurrect another part of the 5 that some people may have forgotten but shouldn't have, because it's kind of awesome. And that is the Renault 5 Turbo. The original Renault 5 Turbo took the basic body and chassis of the Renault 5 and took the engine out of the front and put it behind the front seats and turned it into a high-performance, bulging mid-engine monster. And Renault said, well, let's take the electric car and kind of go down the same route. So the Turbo 3E was shown as a concept last year, and apparently was suitably well received, that Renault said, we are going to build some of these. They're going to build 1,980 of them. Deliveries will start in 2027, so obviously you're going to have to be a little patient. It is described by Renault as an electric mini supercar, but rather than take the platform of the 5 Electric, which is the CMF BEV, it's actually a brand new aluminum platform with a carbon fiber superstructure. And all those lightweight materials mean that this electric high-performance vehicle is lighter in mass than an internal combustion-powered Porsche Cayman. It is longer, lower, and wider than the standard electric 5. It picks up some design cues from the original 5 Turbo, including the rear fender intakes that you can see in the upper right, as well as the giant diffuser. Running the Turbo 3E are 2 individually controllable 268 horsepower in-wheel motors. That's right, in-wheel motors, just like the ill-fated Lordstown Endurance. Which is kind of a cool technical solution. That takes the Turbo 3E from 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds and a European range of about 250 miles. So the range is not super competitive, but it is an 800-volt electrical architecture. So it will charge at up to 350 kilowatts, which will offset the maybe less than competitive range. But again, this is not a vehicle you really take on long vacations, but something you would tool around with in the track. The interior carries over some bits from the standard Renault 5 and features plaid Alcantara trim, retro look digital gauges, and that giant gear shift lever that you see protruding from the center console. It will be offered with heritage color and livery schemes, again playing off the retro approach that Renault is taking with their EVs, but there's not a price yet, so we'll have to stand by. EVs are in some ways a way to meet regulations, but you can also have fun with them as well. So credit to Renault for leveraging their heritage to come up with a desirable, affordable EV, and then taking that and going a step further and coming up with something frankly totally insane. And I wish I had a garage space for something as cool as this, not to mention a bank account. We all know that batteries weigh a lot. So when an automaker says that we're going to do a featherweight EV, that got a lot of people's attention. And let's face it, right now the automotive highway is littered with a number of EV startups like Lordstown and Arrival and Fisker. But that doesn't stop some folks from thinking they can pull it off. So welcome to Longbow. This is a UK-based startup. They plan to launch 2 vehicles at the end of 2026. Yes, literally about a year and a half away. In the front is the Speedster. That will sticker for about $110,000, and they plan to only build 150 units to start. At the back is the Roadster. I know it's not a Roadster because it has a fixed roof, but whatever. And that will launch at about $84,000. To make this a featherweight EV, it has an aluminum chassis with composite panels. The target curb weight is 2,200 pounds for the Roadster and 2,000 pounds for the Speedster, because of course it doesn't have a roof. A Mazda Miata, by comparison, weighs about 2,200 pounds. So these are truly featherweight EVs. 0 to 60 is targeted to be in the mid 3s, and the equivalent EPA range would turn out to be about 220 miles. So not great, but actually not that horrible. We don't have a specific battery size yet. It does use an easily swappable rear-mounted 240 kilowatt motor. So just like Caterham in the UK, who do their little roadsters with a lot of off-the-shelf parts, that's the plan here. Batteries, motors, and brakes are to be sourced from existing suppliers, along with components like lights and mirrors, and this would be coupled with obviously the in-house design and in-house software. The 3 people that have founded Longbow, their backgrounds include Tesla, Lucid, BYD, and the electric speedboat company X-Shore. It's unknown at this point if any sales will go beyond the UK, but a lot of clever engineering here, and considering how much mass is the enemy when it comes to EVs, we'll see if they can pull all this off in the next year and a half or so. There's been a lot in the news about electric pickup trucks, although most of the discussion about electric pickup trucks has been in the full-size segment because, well, to paraphrase John Dillinger, that's where the money is. But that hasn't stopped some automakers from talking about electric mid-size trucks. Now, we know that Hyundai and Kia have already publicly committed to doing electric mid-size trucks. We just haven't seen them yet. So it turns out the first Korean electric pickup truck is coming from a company called KG Mobility, a company you have probably not heard of, which is in Korea. KGM is a company formerly known as SsangYong. At one point, it was owned by Daewoo, and then it was owned by SAIC out of China, and then eventually India's Mahindra & Mahindra. And then back in 2022, it was acquired by the South Korean Chaebol KG Group, and then rebranded as KG Mobility because it is part of the KG Group. This is the Musso EV. It's essentially a pickup variant of the Torres EVX compact SUV. Carries over most of the front-end sheet metal and the interior as well as the powertrain. So kind of the relationship between a Ford Expedition and a Ford F-150. KG claims 3,200 orders in the first 2 weeks, which is not a hugely amazing number, but remember this is Korea, which is not really a big market for pickup trucks. KG is not a hugely popular brand, and it's also electric. So it seems to get off to a pretty good start, and if they can keep that momentum going, they should get decent volume throughout the rest of the year. Size-wise, the Musso EV is a little bigger than a Ford Maverick, but smaller than a Ford Ranger. And at a price point at $33,000 before incentives, it is pretty affordable. It's certainly a lot more affordable than any of the full-size electric trucks on sale here in North America. You can get a skid plate, you can get a cargo divider, a sliding bed, and a roll bar, because they do want to make this fully functional like any truck should be. It will tow up to 4,000 pounds. That's around what a Ford Maverick will tow. It's not as good as the midsize trucks like the Chevy Colorado and the Ford Ranger, but still it will work for a lot of people, maybe not just for everyone. Running all this is a BYD sourced 81 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. That'll give the Musso EV a range of about 250 miles on the Korean cycle, which is not bad. Look at the vehicle. It's not super aerodynamic, so I wouldn't expect too much more than that. To its credit, even though it's a 400 volt system, it does charge at 200 kilowatts. And that's about as fast as you can get out of a 400 volt architecture for most automakers. That gives you an 80% charge in 24 minutes. And like Hyundai and Kia, it does have V2L capability. Vehicle to load means you can plug other electrical devices into the Musso EV to charge them. It is front driver all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive will kick out 413 horsepower. That's even more than a Ranger Raptor, so it should have some pretty good get up and go. After Korea, expected to go on sale in Europe, the UK, and Australia, with prices to be determined at a later date. KG is not a huge threat. Basically, the significance here is showing that everyone is getting into the EV business, and the EV market continues to fragment. So whatever kind of vehicle you're looking for out there, no matter what size or what body style, someone is probably working on it for you. That about wraps up things in our news roundup for this week. If you like what you've seen here, please subscribe and share. And if you want to learn more, please visit us at www.autoperspectives.net. See you back here next week. Bye-bye.